plastic fittings. Some of the strain off of it. Alright, I like that. That is good. This one next. Always use the proper tool for the job. Really? I guess I'm judgment. Let's watch. Alright. Wait. This will be deeper. There we go. Stop. There you go. Now he goes here. I'll put it there. That's a straight shot right there. The other goes around to the other. Give it that. One second left after. No, take it again. That's all. Okay, cool. Give it away. I'll take off that. Sound the other way around. Oh, try that. Thank you. Capri. Like that. So this. Good as usual. Let's try it too. There, this time. Oh, yep. There we go. Like so. That's how it was before. That's how it'll be again. And that'll neaten that up just a little bit. I finally got in my new sensor for my fuel pressure gauge. This is an AEM gauge in the inside of the car. And well, the gauge started giving me really funky values and stuff. It didn't quit, it just gave me really nonsense values. That's why I replaced it with this mechanical one. I was starting to think I had a pump problem when in reality I didn't. It was just a sensor. Now, it's really tough to tell whether it's the actual sending unit or the gauge itself. I went out on a limb and bought a new sending unit because I figured that was the probably most likely failure point. Sure hope I'm right, because just this by itself was 65 bucks for that gauge, but I want it to work because it's in the car. It's already wired up. I'll just replace it, plug this back in. If it turns out to be the gauge, well, that sucks. But I'm going to go ahead and take this mechanical one off. The L fitting on here was necessary just to clear where it happens to be in the engine. It'd be nice if it would just connect directly to the side of the sending unit, or the fuel pressure regulator, but it won't. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that off of there. I just got a rag there just in case it leaks any fuel. It's not ridiculous. It's not. There. Perfect. Yeah. I'll probably show that as well. Just drag it around and do that. Missing. Come on. Scissors. You can take a little. No, fall out of there. thing is, I think I go this way. And down's dead. There's like 20 parts in there. Weeks. Sorry. I had great luck with clean things. First started there, and then we'll have the definitely. Hard to know, sorry. Oh, that one was there. You might have. Thanks. Next up is to get the fuel pressure regulator back on. Yeah, just have to take the tape off. Yes, it's like to be the chlorine, it's like to be still. Now, not as efficiently as possible, but other things. Or just take off with a bunch of residue on there. No, we did. So this, I got to go like this. And yeah, that's how it's going to go. Come on the other side, screw it. No, I can do it. That's it. What do you want? Start it. Move together. Let's gas now. That's it. I still have a little bit of that regulator. Okay, I'm starting to put down. You can see it. Now what it is. Let's go over here. All right. Injector. Lines. That's the way. Uh-oh. That fuel right there is just incidental. There we go. And like the other, you can turn on this one. That's tight. All of my light here. Get the arms away. Why? Tight. Over here. More slack inside the car, apparently. And I got plenty, so shouldn't be an issue. There we go. Hopefully, should be back in business with our If you're concerned about the longevity of this plastic stuff, as long as you don't have it towards a area that's super hot, that it'll last. I mean, I put this stuff on in 2009, so I mean, it's not in bad shape after having been sitting right there on the engine for this long. Valve covers don't get hot enough to get through it, obviously, and you know, it does a pretty good job. It's just kind of dated looking now. I mean, for years and years and years, this was what everybody used because it was available at your local auto parts store, and there really wasn't that many alternatives that people saw around town. So you use what you can get, and now with Amazon and the web and everything else, I mean, there's just lots more opportunities to use better stuff. I always liked the expandable loom, but the only problem with it is that you had to put it on before you put any connectors on because it wasn't split. This stuff is split, and I really kind of like it. It's relatively new. I think I saw it first on I'll think of it in a second. I watch them all the time. I'll think of it in a second. Anyways, I was going to peel this back. I thought about just putting the split loom right on top of it, and that's still not a bad idea. But what I'd like to do is get some smaller loom and some heat shrink on these connectors first, and then wrap it so that it looks a little bit more finished, and you don't see those bare wires hanging out. They're not really hurting anything, and they've been fine, but you know, I can kind of geek out on this stuff, so That's fine. That's kind of how I did it before. I just wrapped them all together. You can see my ancient wiring efforts in gory detail here. So the individual injector wires are still the factory Ford colors, so they're easy to diagnose if you have a problem. And of course the power wires were new at the time that I put the loom together. And yeah, I just used a bunch of zip ties to keep it where it needed to be, and then put this stuff over the top. And that was about the best I could muster back then. And yeah, it's held up pretty well. So what I think I'll do is I'll clip a couple of these zip ties, peel back these just a little bit more, put a little of the smallest loom, and I'll have to use the self-vulcanizing tape, because I'm certainly not going to take those connectors apart just to put shrink tubing on them. Normally you can't wait to peel this, but very awkward to do. So I'm going to start here, and wrap around it. That's how you're trying to stick yourself, that's good. I just want to wrap on the connector. Don't stick yourself good. And now I'm going to wire. I try to do this as neat as I can. So now that neat, I just want to start to ball this. Trying to get close to it so I can see. Alright, so I think that's going to be pretty cool right there. Alright, so I can repeat that process with the other three, put this back on, and then we're going to have to do spice on that too. Alright, break that. What we do, stick this guy right here. So that's going to be where it transitions to the new step. Keep that on there, and we're going to need it. I'll start checking this on. It's not a little bit low. Should encompass that just fine. Like this. There we go. Some more information on there, so that's it. Yep. Alright, so we're ready. This is awkward? It is. It's good. Not good at anything. Just gotta get it done. You gotta find out. That's why some people really too much doing stuff, because frankly, it's hard for me to do it and watch. So you can get it done though. Those zip ties are pretty cool. It's not important. This is really completely almost not completely, but for all intents and purposes, invisible. Once it's together, so I pull off. So you need to get more on that. Over. Hey. So I had to fix that first. Let's see here. Let's see. Too long of a piece right now. Right now. Right there. Alright, what's wrong with that? If you have a limited amount of that self-organized stuff, each one of these individual cutouts with it, I'll tell you, go through a lot of that way, it ain't cheap. So, depends on your budget, and really, so I think you want to be, just a little bit more. There we go. That way, individual piece. I try to get the whole thing, guys don't swing it to it, so it's kind of remarkable stuff. I try to find this shape very well. I don't know what I'm worried about right now, and this one. So I'm going to send a little bit more of that self-organizing too. I get that in right there. And there, we'll have it. Over there. Let's see. The shoulder over more, so just make sure. Take the pull that pressure. Do this one first. And what we'll do is, so this there. So I can pull just like two. It was. So use that. So that much. Okay. So I'll take it there. So I'll myself. Maybe take out, use it here. Alright, this will be a test fit of the intake manifold to figure out exactly how much more room I need to put on this, or length I need to put on this air intake temperature sensor. So I'm just going to mock it up real quick. Alright, no space first. Alright, manifold setting. Pop down there, temporarily, rocky level. Alright, just to get an idea what it needs to be. Alright, it's way back here. Alright, so I'll get ready on that. Probably about 4.5 inches. Okay, off. Overbalanced. So what I'll do is I'll snip these. I want to add about 4.5 inches to length. I'll do this one long and this one short, and that'll make sure my solders are all on the same spot. Yeah, I said solder. You're right. Normally I would do this next bit at a different location, but since you guys want to watch, I'll do it right here on the fender. Let me reposition the camera. My wife is chopping onions in the background, making some pierogi for the holidays. So if you hear that banging in the background, it is nothing nefarious. Just the sound of the old slap chop in action. All right, so it'll be about 4.5 or 4.75 to make sure though. I think about 5. Maybe a little bit long, a little bit short. So every man everywhere. And this isn't really critical. We'll just use that to measure the white. All right, so let's check out these. Let's just make the strippers. Ready? Let's use this black one. Since these are so heavy, oh man, I'll worry about the sugar first. Let's do this. Most of the time, I'm just going to spread the individual wires out a little bit. Just go over there. Didn't have that much to have that. Kind of just hold them up best you can on both sides. As long as the wires match, great. If they don't, it's not a big deal. Basically, what I'm going to do is kind of come get them. And once they do, we'll just like that. There we go. Twist them around first. Get good. And mix and tight. I'm very on the 4 here. Let's see, it's not a favorite starter gun, but it's working for me. I had a Radio Shack 152, 54. That thing was a bomb. But doing some of the stuff that I used to work on, a whole lot of soldering, heavy duty soldering that. I burned that gun up. This is a local replacement. Worked out pretty well. Let's go down. Repeat procedure. Loading. It's kind of small. It's going to be right there at the limit. Oh, I can use this before. Right into the flux. Did you see that? Amazing. I'll give it another try. Alright, this time. I don't need so much. Stick out. And I can peel the wires back a little easier. And it's going to work. That's up. This thing's just different than before. That way. And together. A little bit. That way. That's why I a little more stick on that first one. It was easier. My fingers never. Just not. You know what? I can use my. Fine. I think I always do wire this way. I would try again. I don't want to get into a big debate about solder or not solder. I'd rather solder connection fail. That being said, outwards. So I think it matters where you got that solder connection, how much vibration you're going through that. So let's stick with these. I don't think we'll use the kind of vibration solder damage. So it's not for some of the time where the front takes place anyway. So I have heat gun. I just like right now. I have enough electrical cord issues going around cameras and lights and whatnot to not worry about these two. Staggering your splices keeps the overall wire bundle from getting too large. If you had those right together, they'd be big. So that'll keep the sheathing at a minimum. Still got a stagger on this end to match up with the wires that are on the harness side. And so that's what we're going to do next. I'll go ahead and splice these or strip these now while I'm standing over here. I won't be able to use the device. Notice I didn't say fixture or jig because I don't know the difference and I don't really care. I don't have room for that down there. So this is probably just a better way. Makes for a slightly larger joint. That's a lot easier to solder. This will usually stay in one spot while you blast it. And yeah, sometimes you'll see a little kink in it, but that's okay. There's already a little bit of flux on this, so it'll help the solder flow out. Just trying to keep it steady and hot enough. Yeah, it's penetrated the wires on both ends. We'll wait on the heat shrink. The other one, do the same thing. Not going down that route again. Basically just bend it in half. Repeat. Nobody ever likes to let you watch them do this because they know it's going to invite a million armchair quarterbacks on how to do it right and properly. And you know what? As long as you got some electrons flowing through that gap, you're probably going to be okay. but try to want it to last at least a little bit of time. So I don't feel like, anyway, that the vibration that this wire is going to experience in this particular area is going to be damaging to that solder joint, unless you were to really cast it out into the future a long ways. So I am confident that this will last until something else breaks. As I kick the camera again. Alright, so that worked out pretty well. I think we got the length we need. Now that they've cooled down at least a little bit, I'll roll the heat shrink into place and nail these two. There we go. Alright, now it's just a matter of feeding some of that nice black insulation in there with some possibly some tape to go with it, and we should be good. Put this on this one has something to shrink with. If I get one piece of shrink with this whole thing, I don't size these. That's what I'll do. Just a really large piece over here that doesn't crimp all the way down on individual wires. Solder okay, and so down. Okay. Did we got the camera range there? Shrink penetration. Good. It's a little blocky, that's right. I'm sure it's not shrinking that. Shrink that too soon. There we go. That's not a good piece of it. Take out the excess. I know, I told you. Look like it now. Alright, so set on camera again. That's really easy. That's right. The foot of the camera is right exactly where I want my foot. Let's see if I can do this whole thing with money. Oh, I don't know. They want to do it. I did it again. Put this through here. That's probably enough. And let's see about getting these two guys on here. And then I'm going to see about pulling that through there. Until I get it to right about there. Alright, that's going to have to do. What's the last time? And more importantly, fit. Let's check. Yep, should see that. How's it carried away? Alright, I should put that mouthwash on top. You're right. I almost did, but I didn't. I forgot what size that is, but no. That's not too far, right? Alright, now we can put the finishing touches on the air intake temperature sensor. There it is in here, that's good. Not much there. I might require a little bit of that. So, see what we got. Let's see what we do. God, it's hard. Sorry. Both of the edges don't want to cooperate at the same time. They just don't. Can't believe you're still watching this. Most people cut this out of their videos, so you don't have to. You don't have to stick with me. Because somebody has got to show the process. And not detail where they're trying to do it. You have somebody who knows what's going on. Even if it's better than my idea of what's going on. So, I guess that falls into the word of my mistakes category, but I'm going to make mistakes and find my way. This is a little longer, I'm going to do that. But it is what it is. So that right up there. This. Right up there. Over there. Piece of tape maybe over that juncture. is all I got left out of the roll I started with. So maybe like a big roll doesn't go far. So be sparing with it once you got some spare. So let's go get potatoes. Alright, so take this. We'll go a full time around it first. Just so it's got itself to grip to. And then we'll wind it on down a little bit at a time. And that works out pretty well. Man, I'm really happy with that stuff. So, it's not tape. It won't come unraveled. It just kind of turns into one big lump of plastic after a few seconds or two. Did I hear anything?
Go, Daddy.
Oh, she's got a Christmas collar.
Go, Daddy.
Come here, Lulu. I want to see it. You got a Christmas collar? You're cute. Yes, you do. There she goes.
Oh, blubber.
Like always, good job. I'll try. No reason to try. What's in the old mornings go? There's don't put this on the way. It's just like it's all the same. So check it out how probably down. So it's remember it says the first last time. It's go that way. So it's okay. Just this just you go around. That's the easy part. Now, hard part. You get that metal on there and getting screws on because I'll stop. There we go. See what you know, sorry. Alright, I'm trying to start from the top down. I thought I was Capri, but I only 4. This is my 4 yellows on. These will these. If it goes off these. Unless you got 4 of these left, it'll be a miracle. We'll see. Alright, one. Maybe if I could use 12 points because only a socket goes over 12 very well. And you come right from the edge. So I know how the logic was there. So your caps make it away. So I do that one in a minute. This one's easy enough. It's in that corner. One's in the Jimmy. Yeah, I'm kind of you guys in there. No, we'll see. I'll think about it for a second. I'm not sure I'm going to turn that. I think it's not going to. What's it cost? But I don't start this one. I use it. Now let's go around it. This will work. So back out a little bit. And back all the way through. Make sure it's not the first half. We're going to put on this such. Make sure it's all the way down. And we'll start middle all the way out. Now I can't. Back. You don't have 3/8 wrenches as you ground down, make a little bit on the back end. Sometimes it's not a good idea because once in a while you run through there and it's so tight. This guy here. That helps. One more series. That should be able to do this. So yeah, 3 tools. That is now put down. So if you want to do it, you can do 3/8. 5 cents, 12 point. And how much? So just use one German fork here. That's elevator here. As long as I don't have any major electrical issues there, I'm going to keep it. Yeah, we'll be alright. Let's drop down too much further. Oh man, that's completely flush. I don't want the garbage to stay open. But we'll get on there and see what we got. It's close enough. Not close enough. I really wanted it. She hasn't so we can see that. But anyway, let me clean the bases off while you're ready to go back on the gas board. Now, would you like to go? Catch on that. Should be fine right there, Bill Beats. Okay, go ahead. Let's see. Oh. Yep. Yeah, oh, that's new. Oh. That should be fine. All right. Back up some backing lines now. Now we closer. Yeah, just camera angle. You can see it's making. Just blow off that, by the way. Oh, might get a little bit down there. We'll see. How's that? That's better. Really. After I take off that one, I'm going to go that one. Because it was super close. Alright, those bars are super bars. Over there. Ooh. This one, however, is not. So I will take it down. I don't know what it is. It's fine. No. Not like that. Actually. I'll place that thing right there for those ones. So in the bot. We also have the fuel pressure. Which is on sticking out the fuel pressure gauge. And that should be good. Alright. Get there. Now, it's about distance. It is. I'll go back to this. Yeah, go away. Ah, good, good. All the vacuum lines have been finished up, so we're going to move over to the carbide side and be close. Alright, there's a couple of different ways we can cook up a gasket here. I've got this gasket material. Works very well. This is the one that came off, and it's been on there for several years, and it fared pretty well, and it sealed pretty good. I don't see any evidence of gases leaking out of it anywhere, and yeah, that's good. So, not going to reuse it. I could just trace around it and make a new one just like that. Making copies of copies isn't always my favorite thing to do though, so I think what I'll probably do is just make another one off of the throttle body itself. So let's see, how do I want to go about this? I could use the, I think what I'll do is I'll use the masking tape trick again. Oh, I'm kidding. Wow, that was close. All right, how's these? Oh, I could drop the into it. Laser was a degree too small. You know that? I've seen people whack on the edges of these and turn it into a nice cut. I don't whack on it. Edges not going away. Edges on there, last piece of casting here. Oh. Like that. Let's make it a couple of let's switch on there. Let's get it set. That's a little bit sharper. That's good. Yeah, that gasket material stinks, I'm here to tell you. There's no wonder. You know, I didn't even say that. I bought a whole roll of this yesterday, set it on the counter, come out about an hour later, and the dog had ate like the whole thing. I mean, not swallowed it, but just demolished it. So I had to go get an entirely new roll. Let's see if I can do that. Let's try. That's sort of okay. It's not perfect, but pretty good shot. I tell you what, this is really perimeter. No, I'll get it back. It'll be easier to cut the so fast. Let's do a shot. This stinks. I'm sure we can make it. You guys probably know, but it's not pork. Yeah, it's a good cartilage, guys. I was gonna try to get fancy and grind the edge of a socket down, punch these holes. But that's just me trying to be stylish. There's no reason to. Oh, okay. Just you got that great spot a second ago. Yeah, he was out there. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Sure, what we'll do. Now this is good. Let's just do that. Hand size, not the rest of the way. Yeah, why is it so? Yeah, the thing's $8 and another a lot of guesses. Another question. Just take a clock out of it. Let's see. Yes, yes, it will. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's fine. There we go. Yeah, fine. Right over this aisle. Yes, I mean, let's just go ahead. Put it on there. That's a little spot. So, make sure you ready to test. So, that's it. Right, that's what you do. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Right now. It'll be spot. So I can't start. That's what you do. I'll do what else. This is just let's see. That's easy. Let's see. Let's see. Yes. Right, over there. Or just over here. So let's see. Right, we're going to go. Sorry, let's go. Yes. What's up? Not better. Okay. There's a guy. I'll make it. Stop saying. Okay. Oh, wow, that more anyway. I'll be right in that backwards. Look at those. All right. You can turn now. Do this. This one on that. That's this one on there first. I'll do another. Plant at some point. This is where to find the level boost on right now. So it's going to be all right. Let's do this though. Right there. The plant's not that big. Thanks, dog. I get it too. Let's put this on there. Try to decide if I want this. Try like this. Don't do that. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to write these close. That's awesome. Stop looking at that. Oh, man. Right there, last time, I think. Is your stuff marinated long enough yet?
No, it takes usually overnight.
Oh, wow.